Hi, my name is Deborah Henney. I'm a wife, author, mother, speaker. Today I want to release a prophetic word dated in my journal as September 10th, 2022. It is entitled Mothers and Fathers Forward Together, and it is another installment in the family series of words that God released to me, which are really one word when taken together, but given to me in chunks, in themed chunks, which sometimes God does that, or oftentimes for me anyway, God does that when he releases a word for the body at large. It often comes in segments and chunks, but is really one part of a bigger, each segment, each chunk is one part of the bigger picture overall that God is doing. So mothers and fathers forward together. I am releasing and raising up both mothers and fathers in this time. One will not go without the other, for I have called mothers and fathers together. As my mothers and fathers work together and labor together, there will be a creating, birthing, and nurturing of a new movement in the spirit, which will create a massive shift in the trajectory of the momentum in my body and out of my body during this time. There will be a birthing of new leadership, new levels of power and of authority in my fivefold leadership in my church. With the rise of the mothers and fathers, I am reinstating balance into my church, balancing in giftings, balancing in leadership, and with that balancing, there's a massive leveling up in power. One is not greater than the other, and I am releasing grace and peace over my people with revelations of the power of unity, for this is key. Honor is key. Embracing each other's strengths and giftings is key. Releasing one another into the destinies I have for them is key. These are keys I am releasing to my people to unlock doors and ports. Ports will be open as mothers and fathers arise and lead hand in hand and shoulder to shoulder. Doors will be open before you into new opportunities for greater growth. The foundations laid by the reinstatement, restoration, and revelation of my mothers and fathers will cause a great building up and a gearing up for forward motion and growth. This will happen both individually and across units that I have established and am establishing throughout the earth. The release and revelation of my mothers and fathers' hearts and the anointings I am pouring out through them is key to the family-based movement that I am bringing into my church. This movement will release a healing over the land, even over those who have not yet welcomed me into their lives. I will pour out a salve, a balm of Gilead, of my love, my compassion, my life, and my joy to cover the land. This balm will go deep into areas of brokenness, areas that are deep, cracked, and dry, so springs will come forth. This balm will soothe the raging and bring peace and restoration from chaos and confusion. My mothers and fathers will go forth as a covering over the land and those I am raising up to restore. Restoration of my definitions and vision. Restoration to people and to living identity and structures, both small and large. My people and the land will be able to take a deep breath and rest into the restoration that I am bringing through the release of my mothers and fathers together. So again, there's a theme throughout all of these words that God is releasing a revelation of what it means to be in his family. There's a source of identity that comes with that, a source of definition of who we are as God's children and as his mothers and fathers, releasing his mother and father heart here on earth. And with that, it's the sense, the theme and the sense that I keep getting through all of these words is that there is a huge movement of healing coming. The way I saw it in this vision in particular, it was almost like a dry, barren, cracked clay ground that God just poured over, and it just seeped down deep. It was like I'm not a farmer, but it was like not instant, but a ground conditioner that went deep into the cracks and caused a healing in the land. And that isn't just in the church. He says, in my body and out of my body. So there's a healing that's going to happen with people in the church, but also people that are not churched, that God is bringing a healing to, and calling them into his family, but through a healing that's going to take place in their hearts, that God is going to bring through his people and through the keys that he's releasing. The keys that are going to open the doors and the ports. And God was pretty clear that it was doors and ports. The sense is that doors are like opportunities for growth for each individual or for the ministries. And the ports were heaven and the presence of God and of glory. That God is releasing and opening up ports and doors and giving us the keys to do that. And the keys are really going to heart postures and character, like honor. How do we honor when maybe the situation or that person isn't making it conducive to act with honor? How do we do that? How do we live that out? How do we walk that out? So honor, unity, and the power of unity. So keeping our hearts free of unforgiveness, keeping our hearts free of jealousy and discontent, things like that. Embracing each other's strengths and giftings. So again, not becoming jealous of what they have or where they are, but resting in who God has made us to be and where we are in God's plan and path for our lives, and fully embracing and releasing in the deepest parts of who we are other people into their giftings and into their strengths and into their destinies. And that can be sometimes easier said than done. And again, this is going to the mothers and the fathers. So people who are in leadership, being able to embrace and release others as they come up, and embrace and release them into their destinies and into their giftings. But it also goes to peers. Because, we each kind of have our own heart journey with the Lord in finding where God has each of us. I like how God said he's leading the mothers, and he's calling the mothers and fathers to lead hand in hand, that's going to the unity, and shoulder to shoulder, that's going to balance and equality. He made it very clear, one is not greater than the other. So again, it's bringing that balancing and embracing each other's qualities and really capitalizing on the giftings and the anointings in each, whether it's a mother or whether it's a father, a man or a woman, that God is calling them together, forward, together, shoulder to shoulder. And again, it's kind of like that sense of equally yoked, a yoking, that the shoulder to shoulder, digging in and going forward together into the land to cause a deep conditioning and healing in the land. And God says that this is gonna create a birthing and a nurturing of a new movement in the spirit. And one of the key words that God has been starting to put in my spirit for 2023 is movement. Movement. 2022 was double, double, double again. 2021 was shift. And it's almost like God is taking 2021, 2022, and putting them together into 2023. There's a shift, there's a leveling up, and a movement. Move forward movement and an upbuilding. He mentions that again later, where the mothers and fathers, that reinstatement, restoration, and revelation will cause a great building up and gearing up. So again, the sense of growth and movement and motion going forward in strength and in power. He mentions the fivefold leadership. God has been has spoken to me a lot in my prayer times about the fivefold leadership and the reinstatement of his vision for the fivefold leadership in the church, bringing about almost like a synergistic balance that causes this explosion of power, of glory, and of growth in their lives, but also in the church and in individuals in the church that God is bringing about in this time. The balm will soothe the raging. God talking about bringing a healing. Sorry, I'm just reading over the word here. God said he's bringing about that healing in the land through this, specifically through the family-based movement, that God is bringing a great healing into the land. He talks about soothing the raging. And when I saw that, it was like a picture of the whole nation. And, I'm from the United States, so I saw the United States. And it was like this raging chaos, almost like a boiling. And when he poured out his covering over the land, it just caused a like that sigh of relief, and it just calmed the raging. It brought peace and restoration. Again, a key word in this was restoration. There are a couple words that he had me type in all caps, which means that he was emphasizing that, and those words were key and restoration. Those were the two words that he had me write in all caps, because those were concepts that he wanted to emphasize in this word. Restoration, and it was a rest into the restoration. Again, talking about we're not going to have to strive to do this. We need to rest in him, in his power, in our identity in him. And I mean, there's a co-laboring with him, but when we co-labor with him, we don't go at it in our own strength and in our own power. We go at it and we walk through it in his. And he brings the empowerment, and he brings the focus, and he so it's more of a posture of resting in him, and in that rest in him, he brings a restoration into our lives, into our churches, and into the land. So it's a huge blessing, a huge word, and a huge revelation that he is bringing, that we are his family, and all the inheritance that goes with that, all the promises and the benefits that go with that, the identity that goes with that, and the release that goes with that, that's going to be released in our lives and in other people's lives. So be blessed.